It's ATF. Ah!
But where from? My goodness, it's everywhere. What is up, Buck? I am Doug with D&E in the garage. As you can see, my first gen Dodge Dakota here has some automatic transmission cooler lines that are just bleeding out of everywhere. Today, I'm going to show you how to seal up your automatic transmission cooling system, and I'm going to do it using something you may or may not have heard of before, called single-eared stepped clips, or OETIKER clips. Now, these OETIKER clips are stainless steel. They come in a variety of sizes. Usually in a kit like this, you'll get a crimper with them because they are a one-way clip as opposed to a worm gear clip or a hose clamp like this where you can tighten it and loosen it and reuse it as many times as you need. With an OETIKER clip, once you crimp this down on the hose, it's staying there. You need to cut it off with a crimp tool or a cross cutters or some other tool. I'm going to clean up these automatic transmission lines, and then I have no intention of ever taking them off again unless there's some kind of issue. OETIKER clips hopefully are going to work a little better than the variety of band clamps I have on there now. Let's go under that truck and see exactly why is it leaking so much. It's crazy.
Alrighty friends, the well-initiated in the group will recognize that this truck does have a number of leaks.
We'll get to those as well. Most notably is going to be a power steering leak you're going to be looking at this whole time. Yes, some of the wetness under there is power steering fluid, but some of it's also ATF.
And the reason for that is very evident here. You can see we've got some hard lines that were cut and just had hose kind of put right over them. I don't even know if those ends are flanged. I'm suspecting they're not, and that's why they're leaking. You can actually see a drop starting on this one. So this joint here is one of the ones that is actively leaking for sure. Another one is most likely this one coming out of the cooler right there, because you can see a drop forming right on it.
Basically what we have is age and some shoddy repairs done over time. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is find a cleaner to get some of that gunk off. I've really been loving the Harbor Freight degreaser. You mix it 20-to-1 in a Zep bottle like this. It's a gallon for 10 bucks. It's the most cost-effective cleaner that actually does something. Got a little ammonia in it. It's 10 out of 10. I'm going to try to hit those power steering lines as well if I can, because that'll be the next leak we fix in this big bad boy. Get our box a little bit.
Alrighty friends, we're looking at the automatic transmission cooling lines right here, except for this one. This stuff right here is power steering, but this right here, this guy, this new one, these hose clamps, these very rusty, gross lines. And what happens is over time, these lines rust out. People replace it with a bit of fuel line or vacuum line and a worm clamp. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What I'm going to do is disassemble this. We're going to try to delete a few of these rustier lines. Like this one right here, cut out all this over the river and through the woods stuff and put it right up here. And like I said, we're going to use those OETIKER clamps, because these worm clamps, they're either not tight enough or they're too tight. Sometimes they break. They're not really the right thing for this application.
Before you rip all those cooler lines off, you're going to want to mark your lines so that you know when you're attaching them, you're attaching the send to the send and the return to the return. A couple different colored zip ties do a great job at that. What you're looking at there is just a mini tube cutter from the plumbing department at any big box store or the Hazard Fraud or on Amazon. Much better than a Sawzall. Cleaner cut, doesn't leave shavings everywhere. Definitely the way to go for cutting ATF lines or other hard lines you have around the vehicle. See that clean cut? Alrighty friends, here is your automatic transmission cooling line in all its glory. You can see the factory ones are compression fittings. They have this almost like fuel line type quick disconnect. But the long and the short of it is this system has been bastardized and patched in. You can see this is some Duralast 3/8 braided fuel line. Doesn't matter. We're going to replace the whole shooting match. Here's the problem. It doesn't matter what fitting you use, be it worm clamp, constant tension, OETIKER clamp, you have your buddy just clamp down on it real tight. If you don't flare these fresh cut ends, it's not going to work. It's going to leak at best. It's going to pop off at worst. Cheap brake flaring kit, okay? It's not easy to do under the truck, so I'm going to show you here because there's just no room for it. You lock your tube in the die here. And you don't have to go crazy because we're not making brake lines here. We just need to get some kind of flare on the end of this thing
so that clamp has something to hold on to. Tighten this guy back too. This guy goes on like that. I think y'all see where this is going. This pipe had a little bend in it, so it's not going to sit totally flush, but it will be okay. It's a heck of a lot easier to do on a piece of straight pipe, but beggars can't be choosers. As you can see, we got a bit of a flare there. We're dropping out some more ATF, and what that's going to do is just help our hose stay on there. So I'm going to go argue with this bad boy under the truck for a little bit. I'll get everything cleaned up, and when it's time to install those fancy new OETIKER clips, I'll bring y'all back in. Ooh, buddy, so I was about to flare the other side of that hard line. You can see the orange zip tie down there. That's the other line that we cut, or the other side of the line we cut. And I came back up here, and I realized it actually goes to another piece of soft line, and then it's into this Mopar cooler that I don't know if it was a factory unit or if it was a dealer upgrade. We're gonna get her out of there and we're gonna put a new line on, I think. Boy, this was on there so tight I probably should have just left it, but. Alrighty friends, we're in pretty good shape. We're flared where we want it to be flared. It's a little off center, but that's okay. We've got the other lines disconnected. So essentially what we're gonna do is go from here to here with a new piece of line connected with OETIKER clips, and then we're going to go from here all the way up to that power steering cooler, again with new line and OETIKER clips. Let's go look at our line and figure out which clips we need. Alrighty friends, let's talk about line real quick. The best line for transmission cooler line is PTFE tubing. It's not particularly common, you're not going to find it at AutoZone, but it is your best option. It doesn't degrade the way rubber does, but 9 times out of 10, rubber is going to last you quite a long time. I suspect this has been on there for who knows how long, but quite a while. And so what I have here is some 3/8 braided fuel line, just some off-the-shelf stuff. What I like about using fuel line, braided fuel line, is you get a lot of squish out of it, so your clamps can really dig in. Now what you're gonna wanna do is take your kit of OETIKER clamps here and find whichever one fits with a little bit of room. I can't use these. They fit perfectly over the 3/8 because I'll never make it over the flare. So you have to have a little bit of room, and there's a good amount of squish in these. So I'm using the 15 millimeter to 17.5 millimeter. They look pretty loose on here before the squish, but I think it's gonna clamp down just nice, and that flare is gonna keep it from popping off or leaking past. Fortunately, the mailman's a total scumbag. He told me maybe a brief drizzle. So I ran out to the store to grab something. Hood up, tools out. It pours, why not? So we're gonna roll around in the greasy ATF mess that we didn't do a good job containing, that's now also wet with rainwater. It's a great hobby. Why do we do this? So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna use 2 OETIKER clips on these ones that I flared myself to give a little bit more of a seal. The ones on the radiator that had the factory flare, I only used the one. So we'll put these, first one up. The tool we're using is basically a front nipper. All right, the installation tool and the removal tool is the same tool. You just don't give her as much mustard on the installation. And start to collapse it. Okay. It's just as easy as that. See, that's another benefit to the OETIKER clamps. How many of you have busted 11 of your knuckles trying to get some friggin' hose clamps wormed all the way down? Alrighty, now that's not good enough for who it's for. I don't know what is. You can see where the single ear clips get their name. Got one single ear. And these are crimped down to Kingdom Come, but they're not going anywhere. So we crimped them all the way down. Very little room left, but you can see where the flange is bulging out there. At least I hope you can. I'm pretty happy about that, guys. So now we're gonna measure and cut for the next one, without hopefully slicing through our phalanges. Load up 2 more clips here, work that hose over that flange, and get to crimping. This one right next to it. I'm not going to be able to alternate these as much, so I'm right up against the rad support, and the rad, and the steering box, and the front cross member. Anything else we want to cram in this area? See if I can turn it 90 degrees though. Now this is supposed to be unnecessary, because another benefit of these is sometimes worm clamps will grab and only put pressure on about 90 degrees of your radius. These don't do that. They crimp, they start pulling from the back and pull all the way around. Now I got 2 on there and I feel darn good about that. What I'm gonna do is zip tie these 2 hoses together, at least loosely, to keep this automatic transmission line from doing any of the weeble wobbles. I like that quite a lot. And I'm gonna leave these orange zip ties on, so if I'm ever on the side of the road because one of these lines blew off or broke, I already have them marked. This is the orange line. As a final thought, if you were doing this job because your automatic transmission lines were leaking so badly that you took notice, don't forget to fill your automatic transmission when you're done here. Automatic transmissions can lose quite a lot of fluid before you start noticing slipping between gears, slipping at the top of gears, stuff like that. But they are taking abuse being low on fluid like that. So follow the manufacturer's recommended. You don't just pull the dipstick. I wouldn't bother mentioning this, but I feel like filling an automatic transmission is probably a skill that's being lost because all automatic transmissions are non-serviceable now. So if you have a serviceable automatic transmission, remove it. And believe it or not, there's a whole mess of literature here on your dipstick to give you hints on how to keep your automatic transmission from grenading on you. But the one we're looking for is right here. Hot, idle, in neutral. You pull this thing out, you wipe it, you put it back in, you pull it out again, and you look for the min-max line. If it's not sitting in between those cross hatches, you're gonna have a bad time, okay, bud? Now, when would you not use OETIKER clamps? Real quick, I actually did a video on constant tension clamps not too long ago. I'm gonna link that, and I recommend y'all go check that out. So I will leave a link to where I bought this kit on the Slamazon. It's a pretty good complete kit. It will be an affiliate link, so if you decide to buy through that link, hey, you're helping the channel out. I do appreciate it. So that's all there is on this one. I'd love to hear a comment down in the squawk boxes. Y'all using OETIKER clips? If so, what are you using them on? Are you going to use them now that you've seen them? Did you even know they existed before? Did you know what they were called? Who the heck is OETIKER? All these questions could be answered down in the squawk boxes. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.